Hello, welcome back to the SEO Bootcamp by Moz Academy. This is the Reporting on SEO course, and in this lesson we'll be talking about data quality, specifically cross-domain tracking. Now, if you have a site or if you have a business that has multiple domains or multiple subdomains, you'll want to set up cross-domain tracking so that it's all seen as under one umbrella. Now, if you're unsure as to what a subdomain is, a subdomain is a domain that's part of your main domain. So you can see here on the screen the difference between a subdomain and a subfolder. On the left, these sections of the site are set up as subdomains. So for hightech.com, for example, if the blog is located before the domain name, blog.hightech.com, the blog is the subdomain of hightech. Or let's say their shop were set up on their subdomain. It would be shop.hightech.com. Now, if it were set up as a subfolder, that means that that section of the site would come after the top level domain. So in this case, we see www.hightech.com/blog. That means the blog is a subfolder. Here, the shop is a subfolder. Subfolders are usually considered part of the site, and there's no problems with reporting. So if this is how your website is set up, cross-domain tracking isn't necessarily something you need to worry too much about. However, if your site is set up with subdomains, or if you have multiple domains that all operate under the same company umbrella, this is something you'll really want to set up. Because Google Analytics sees subdomains and other domains as separate from your actual domain, you want to make sure that you're getting credit for what's happening on those subdomains or those different domains. They should be treated as a single entity. Otherwise, the traffic that's passing between those subdomains or between those various domains are going to be treated as referrals. And in order to eliminate that error, we'll set up cross-domain tracking. Let's say, for example, I have multiple sites. I work for GE, and GE has multiple unique domains. They have a GE corporate site, they have a GE aviation site, they have their product lines. So let's say, for example, I somehow land on the GE corporate site. And then eventually I make my way through, I click on a few different buttons, and I end up purchasing a product from the product line site or from the aviation site. Google Analytics will then see that as a referral from GE Corporate rather than all of these sites operating under one umbrella. If someone comes to my corporate site and then makes a purchase on my aviation site, I want it to not be seen as a referral because although it's a separate domain, it's still operating under my company umbrella. Let's take a look at another example. This is for Roku. Let's say, for example, I were to search cord cutting tips. I come to Google. Google gives me a list of results. I click on the best cord cutting tips according to Roku customers. And I land here on the blog post. Now, on Roku's site, the blog exists on the subdomain. You'll notice the URL is set up as blog.roku.com/cord cutting tips, Roku customers. So the blog exists on the subdomain. Now let's say that customer then clicks on a product either from the top navigation bar, or maybe there's a link within the blog article to the Roku product. So I land on that Roku product page, roku.com/Roku TV, and I purchase that product. So I make a conversion. Google Analytics may not see this as originating with an organic search, but rather it seen as a referral from the blog if cross-domain tracking isn't set up properly. So then, because that Roku TV product page is not on the subdomain that your blog is, that blog post isn't really getting the credit for that conversion. You've done the work to create a great piece of content, and you have no clue if it's doing anything, when in fact, that blog post could have converted that customer. So you lose the attribution or the credit with reporting, you always want to understand what's working, what's really driving traffic. That's the whole point of reporting. And so if cross-domain tracking isn't set up properly, that blog post, because it exists on the subdomain and the product does not, that blog post may never get the credit for that conversion. So this happens a lot with these types of partnerships. If you're using HubSpot, or your blog exists on your subdomain, or maybe your shop exists on your subdomain. Maybe you're working for a company that has multiple sites for different countries, or just multiple sites for their different groups or products. This can happen. So you want to set up this cross-domain tracking. So what you can do is go to this link, this Google Analytics link down here at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see instructions and which tracking code to enter for your primary domain and which one to enter for your secondary domains. So you want to be aware of this issue, and now you can see what it is and where to go to resolve it. It's just some code that you'll need to, some tracking code that you'll need to implement. So once this code is implemented, you'll then be making an association between those two properties, and you'll retain the attribution of the organic visit. So in that Roku example, with cross-domain tracking set up, you'll know that that conversion was actually the result of an organic search rather than a referral from the blog. So that's cross-domain tracking. Thank you.